From my generation, I'll take the fall. The states and across the nation, and it's a sin. The gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to my music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah. Now get the guns, the drugs. From my generation, I'll take the fall. The saints, across the nation, yeah. It's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to my music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah. Forget the lies, the money. We're in this together and through it all. They said that nothing's forever, and they refuse to see the change in me. Why won't they wake up? Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to my music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to the music. Live through the music, yeah. Move to the music. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to the music. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to my music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Move it to the music, yeah. Move to my music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Now get the guns, the drugs from my dinner. Oh, wait. Sorry, got caught up. Different rockin' riff. I want to say this is... Money. I want to say this is one of the themes for one of the early WrestleManias. It might have actually been Linda McMahon's theme song at one point.
I think this was Linda McMahon's early theme song, yeah.
That or she came out to the original WrestleMania theme. WrestleMania. Good evening, afternoon, whenever you happen to be listening, and welcome to Spoiler Alert, a presentation of the Not a Network Podcast Network. I'm your host. I am the voice of reason. Allegedly, around these parts, I am the Wrestling Encyclopedia. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Joining me, as per usual, here on Spoiler Alert is the man whose name is blue for a reason. Quite literally, if you look at your little graphic right there, in this instance, the wrestling enthusiast, Bryan Espinoza. But to be fair...
I was wondering when somebody would catch on to that.
To be fair, my name is blue for no reason, so...
No, your name is pink.
Not on this show, it's not. And boy, do we have a show for you all tonight. As the Wayback Machine takes us to 2011 and what many call the greatest WWF/E pay-per-view ever. There are a couple other candidates for the crown. We can have that debate another time, especially after we cover a couple of those other candidates. But for my money, I've been watching since God, Jesus, 1990 maybe, 89, 90, before 5 years old with my uncles. Watching regularly.
I am not going to make a comment on that just because I'm feeling nice, especially with yesterday being your birthday and all.
I dinosaur, and I'm up to 38 now. I appreciate the shout out on Parallel Convergence, available in the archives here on the Not a Network Podcast Network. Twitch.tv/Not a Network Pods, YouTube or YouTube.com/at Not a Network Pods, Twitter.com/Not a Network Pods for your social media follows. So like I said, I've been watching wrestling a long time. Started 1990-ish. Fell off for a little bit. Parents don't like it. My mom and my stepdad hated pro wrestling. Did not let me watch when I was a kid. But as I started to become an adult and stuff, I started to buy my own VHS tapes and buy my own DVDs and stuff. And I got back into wrestling when I was approximately 16 or 17. And I've been watching since. And as you guys just heard, I just turned 38. So that's basically 20 years uninterrupted of watching wrestling. So I've seen quite a few shows in my time. I have quite a few shows covered in my archives, including other podcasts on previous networks and such. It's 1A or 1B for the greatest WWE show of all time, in my opinion.
This after I watched it, and this is definitely up there for me. I think it's going to go in top 10 for now. There are a couple. I mean, obviously, I have personal bias. You know what my number one favorite is.
Of course.
Not announcing it on air yet because we intend to cover it eventually, and we want that to be a surprise. Needless to say, it is one of the WrestleManias.
I actually know exactly when I want to cover that show.
Oh?
I want to cover that show the week of this year's WrestleMania. So the Tuesday or the Wednesday before April 1st, the last Wednesday in March. We're going to have to figure out the timing of that with me and my girlfriend's scheduled plans for that week. I'll have to let you know specifically my availability, but I'd like to be able to cover that show right before this year's WrestleMania.
Okay, I think we can make that work.
We won't say what the show is yet because we still got a month to get there.
Right,
but
like I said, we wanted
just tossing it out there.
We want it to be a little bit of a surprise.
All right, let me pull up the Discord so that way I have the part of the show ready where the people must mute their headphones or their audio feeds if they don't want spoilers.
Yes, let me pull that up here. I'm stuck in...
Before we do that, however, we do have a couple of things that we need to talk about.
No, don't mute yet, folks.
Don't mute yet. We do have a couple of things we need to talk about. First of all, the wrestling world mourns the passing of Jerry Jarrett, famous promoter from the Tennessee era, Memphis, USWA. Basically, if it wasn't Lawler in Memphis, it was the Jarrett family. Most modern fans will know Jeff Jarrett, former owner of TNA, former WWE agent / producer, current AEW superstar, is Jerry's son. Long-time listeners of the Something to Wrestle With podcast with Bruce Pritchard will know Jerry Jarrett is the man behind the chicken salad. Well, you know, first you get the grapes, and you cut them up, and then you get the walnuts, the walnuts, not the peanuts, but the walnuts, and then you get the chicken mix, and that's a chicken salad.
I'm pretty sure that's actually a Waldorf salad, but...
The point being...
I know. I'm making a joke.
That's that was Bruce Pritchard's impression of Jerry Jarrett.
I found it, by the way. I do know what we're covering next week, and I will happily announce it at the end of the show. I've made my decision.
Good, because I've only been asking you for the last 3 days.
I'm not going to tell you why I made the decision. I want you to watch the pay-per-view and find out.
Oh, we're doing another pay-per-view. Okay, then.
Yeah, it's going to be another pay-per-view.
All right, so that'll be the third pay-per-view in a row, and then in 2 weeks' time, we're going to hit another.
This is gonna set me up for to highlight some of my favorites out of a particular wrestler, moving forward for my picks for. I guess we could call it the road to WrestleMania.
I suppose. My personal pick for 2 weeks from today, because I picked Money in the Bank 2011, which is what we're covering today. My picks for 2 weeks from today are the night pro wrestling changed, and we're going to look at it from both the New York side and the Georgia side. What does that mean? Stay tuned. We'll tell you later. That's where you hit the doggo.
I don't have the doggo. Eric has the doggo.
We don't have the doggo here. Okay, well then I'll just have to do the audio myself. Very good timing on the doggo. You'll find that out later on in the show, folks. All right. So, once again, our condolences to the family and friends of Jerry Jarrett. And one of said family and friends of Jerry Jarrett is Jerry Lawler, who happens to be a color commentator for the show that we're about to cover tonight. And
one of my all-time favorites, honestly.
I think we mentioned it on the debut episode when we did the first episode of Monday Night Raw, and then talked about a little bit about Raw 30 as well. Jerry Lawler recently suffered a stroke at his residence in Memphis, Tennessee, and was rushed to the hospital.
It was no, it wasn't at his residence. It was at a grocery store parking lot.
Oh, was that? Oh, because I remember he went out to dinner the night before, and he was starting to show signs then, and they were worried about him. So
no, he was at the grocery store getting groceries. He collapsed in the parking lot, and somebody noticed and called 911.
This is a man who's also had a heart attack in the past before.
On air, I might add.
That's an episode of Raw that we might be able to cover in the future, but it's one where we're going to have to tread lightly. Because
I actually do want to cover it given... Well, we'll explain as the show goes on.
All I will say is that particular episode changed my opinion of Michael Cole.
Same.
And that's all I will say.
I think it changed a majority of the WWE Universe's opinion of Michael Cole.
That's fair. We'll talk more about
so much to the point that certain things ended up occurring, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
By the way, in case you didn't know, adulting, 1 star, would not recommend.
Agreed.
Okay. But want to talk about a 5 stars kind of match. We have one of those here for you tonight. I think now would be the time that you scroll the little banner and put up the little Chiron.
Yeah.
It is WWE's Money in the Bank 2011 from the Allstate Arena in Chicago, actually in suburban Chicago, Rosemont, Illinois.
That's just like the New York. That's just like the New York Jets or the New York Giants playing their games in New Jersey, even though they're New York.
Yeah, we're the only real team in New York. July 17th, 2011. Your announcing team are Michael Cole, Booker T, and Jerry Lawler. We'll talk about that later on.
Sadly.
And 2 hours, 48 minutes, and 3 seconds on Peacock. Yours might have been a little bit longer if you have the ad-supported version. I don't know if you have the ad-supported or ad-free.
I have an ad blocker, so I don't think it really matters. I mean,
Sure.
Yeah, there were some, like a couple of seconds of fade in, fade out, so I may be on the longer version, but I didn't.
No, that's what I have. I have the fade in, fade out because I have I pay for the premium version because I use it on my Roku. So,
yeah,
you watched on your computer.
I watched on my PC. Yeah.
All right. So here are your results for the 2011 Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
This is a very expensive chair, and it is a very comfortable one.
I just like laying down on my bed while I watch shows. It's the benefit of a studio apartment. All right, here we go. Daniel Bryan wins the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match in 24 minutes and 27 seconds. Match also consists of Cody, Sin Cara, Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, Sheamus, Kane, and Wade Barrett. Kelly retains the Divas title in 4 minutes and 48 seconds, pinning Brie Bella with K2. More commonly known as a rocker dropper or Billy Gunn's famouser. Mark Henry pins the Big Show with Death from Above, unofficial name, running splash at 5 minutes and 57 seconds. I am hereby putting this into the universe of spoiler alert. Henceforth, Alberto Del Schmucko
I'm okay with this.
wins the Raw Money in the Bank ladder match in 15:59, and oh, what a 15:59 it is. Retrieving the briefcase in a match that also contains Kofi Kingston, The Miz, Jack Swagger, Rey Mysterio Jr., R-Truth, Alex Riley, and Evan Bourne. Christian wins the world title for a second time, defeating Randy Orton by disqualification in a match where the DQ champion rule is waived. We'll explain what that means a little bit later on. At 12 minutes and 16 seconds. And your main event sees CM Punk pin WWE champion John Cena with Go to Sleep at 33 minutes and 45 seconds. In-ring bell time, 1 hour 37:12. 57.84% of the pay-per-view is spent bell to bell. I did the math.
We'll create a thing for that. Give me a moment.
You're good. We can also let people know it's now safe to unmute if they so choose. Real quick, before we go further, a speedy recovery to Jerry Lawler, since I didn't specifically say so before we got started on the show.
Yeah, thoughts of prayers and a speedy recovery out to the king for sure.
Everything I've heard says he's doing well. He's recovering nicely, and if a heart attack didn't take him down, a stroke isn't going to either.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue that's going to be he's going to have to deal with is the speech therapy, probably. But the man was born to talk, so I don't see that being a problem for him.
And from everything I've heard, he's only been having a little bit of issues with memory from everything. He's still able to communicate. He's still able to conversate. He's just, every now and then, he's having difficulty finding the right words. But again, he literally just had the stroke like a couple of weeks ago. So as long as Jerry Lawler's alive, Jerry Lawler's going to fight. I think if wrestling history has taught us anything, it's that.
Agreed.
All right, so let's get to the actual show review, shall we?
Let's.
All right, we open with the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match.
I hate that I keep having to hit stop to get it. All right, I ruined the segment. Move on.
You're good. All right, so let's start with the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match, and I know you had some questions. Eating on Air is not a network exclusive.
Oh, of course it is.
I will only be drinking on air because I ate earlier. I'm a professional, damn it.
I was waiting for my dinner plans to figure out what they were, and when they figured out what they were, I'm like, screw it, I'm not waiting another 2 hours to eat. Fuck it, I'm eating on air.
All right, so the SmackDown Money in the Bank ladder match, you had some questions about some people. Go ahead, fire away.
Let me pull up my thing again.
And I will answer them on air exactly how I answered them inside of our personal conversation.
As I try not to get distracted by certain people's wives. No comment.
Catalina Hager, folks, you're welcome.
Oh, no. I was thinking of a different one. Mizanin.
Oh, yeah, that one. Her.
Yeah.
The former Miss Oye. Outletty. Or Outlettte, if you didn't know.
So, whatever happened to Sin Cara?
Sin Cara currently wrestles in Mexico again under the name Mr. Aziz. He was Sin Cara in the WWE, and then there was a fake Sin Cara in the WWE, and then the real Sin Cara got fired because A, he sucked, kept blowing spots, and B, he kept failing drug tests. Nudge, nudge. So That Sin Cara ended up.
I'd make a joke here, but we are not point of viewer.
So that particular Sin Cara, the actual Sin Cara, the one that was brought in, the original portrayer of the gimmick, who was known originally in Mexico as Mystico, he ended up getting his release from the WWE and went back to Mexico under the name Mystaziz because he didn't go back to the company where he was at, which I believe was AAA. He ended up going to CMLL, and AAA claimed ownership of the Mystico gimmick. Sin Cara would continue in the WWE with a new person portraying the character, the man who was formerly known as Unico in the WWE, part of the tag team Unico and Camacho, albeit a short-lived run that they had.
Gotcha. What the hell is with this, like, Hollywood hunks, young, slick-back-looking Wade Barrett? He doesn't look like he's picked up the Bad News Barrett gimmick.
He hasn't
look
yet.
Like he's picked up the I'm a British bastard gimmick, because I don't really know what other.
Oh, he is still a British bastard. So you're familiar with NXT, yes?
Yeah.
Did you know NXT was originally a reality show in the WWE?
Yeah, I remember watching it when it came out.
Wade Barrett won the very first season of that NXT reality show.
I do remember that, actually.
It became part of the Nexus, which dominated a good portion of summer of 2010, shows that we haven't gotten to, but I would like to get to in the future because there's a lot of interesting
Nexus.
A lot of interesting topics and takes to discuss from that time frame. The point being is that Barrett went on to lead the Core as well, which was another stable that consisted of mostly former Nexus members, Slater, Gabriel, as well as a man named Ezekiel Jackson, who had a relatively short run in the WWE over the course of a couple of seasons. He was also in Lucha Underground as well. Ezekiel was under the name Recklin Stevens. So this would have been approximately around the time of the Core's breakup and Barrett getting ready to transition into a single solos act. Bad News Barrett is about a year-ish away, but it is forthcoming.
Okay, yeah, because I know they mentioned it during the broadcast, or during the match, excuse me, because his former stable partners were also in this match, and at one point they ended up turning on him.
Slater and Gabriel, yes.
Yeah, after having worked with them for a moment to get, I believe it was Del Schmucko off the ladder.
Believe it was Kane, actually. Del Rio was in the wall match.
Yeah. It was, they got Kane off the ladder, and then Kane chokeslammed all three of them. Whatever happened to Sheamus?
Sheamus is still with the company. Sheamus is currently in a faction known as the Brawling Brutes. He teams with Butch, who's more commonly known under the name Pete Dunne, Ridge Holland, and honorary Brawling Brutes member Drew McIntyre.
Huh. Well, today I learned, and tomorrow I'll forget.
Sheamus has been with the company the entire time, only taking time away for, I believe, a torn labrum and a series of concussions over the last 12 years.
I know that torn labrum took him out for a while.
I want to say Sheamus debuted in the WWE in 2008 in the WWECW brand.
That sounds about right.
And then eventually made his way over to Raw. They talk about the fact that Sheamus is a former WWE heavyweight champion during the course of this Money in the Bank ladder match. That happened at TLC in 2010, which would have been December of 2010, 7 months prior.
How like early into his career is this Daniel Bryan though? Because he looked young as hell here. And I don't remember when Daniel Bryan debuted.
Are we talking his WWE debut, or are we talking his actual wrestling debut?
His WWE debut.
NXT The Game Show in 2010.
So he's, what, 18 months in, give or take?
Well, he was fired in 2010 for like 2.5 months because he broke PG. So the original Nexus attack that happened on Monday Night Raw, it happened in June of 2010. Nexus comes out, destroys everything at ringside, lays out everybody, destroys everything. They stand tall. All of them attack Cena. Bryan specifically attacking Cena by kicking him in the head with a quote of, "I'm going to kick your fucking head in." Bleeped, of course. A little bit earlier in that attack, however, they go after people at ringside, the timekeeper, the announcers. They chase everybody off. Justin Roberts gets caught by Bryan, and Bryan is caught on camera choking Justin Roberts with his necktie. Unfortunately, that violates PG standards because it is considered an act of physical aggression, like an act of legitimate physical aggression. Like you could actually see somebody get choked out with a necktie. Like the "don't try this at home" stuff.
Yeah.
Bryan was let go from the company for that. He would make his return just a couple of months later at SummerSlam as a babyface, however. So he was only gone for like a month and a half, 2 months, thereabouts, I think. Because it was June when Nexus debuted. He was back at SummerSlam, which was in August. Bryan had already been wrestling for a decade at this point. His wrestling in-ring debut was in 2000. A student of the Texas Wrestling Academy, ran by Rudy Boy Gonzalez and somebody you might have heard of. His name's Shawn Michaels. And then his finishing training was done by Master William Regal.
Multiple names I know of there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, shall we take a moment to talk about how this is definitely brand split being very much a thing here? Because that one caught me off guard. Because I completely forgot. I know about brand split. Like, that's pretty much what I started watching was, hardcore brand split. But I forgot that brand split was a thing.
More or less still a thing at this point, yes. Obviously, there are signs throughout the year where the two brands interact with each other. Like, obviously, there were joint pay-per-views and stuff. Not quite back to the era of each brand having their own separate pay-per-views. That comes in 2014. Because for a while back in like the mid-2000s, they had their own pay-per-views. Then they rejoined because they felt like they weren't giving the customers enough value by having the separate pay-per-views. And then they eventually went back to the brand splits roughly upon the start of the WWE Network era, when all of the pay-per-views were basically $10 a month on the network. So it was felt that having the separate pay-per-views for the separate brands allowed the two writing teams to tell their own stories and then branch them together at the big four: SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and Survivor Series. And then Money in the Bank became kind of like that fifth big four pay-per-view as well.
Yeah, I've always seen Money in the Bank as a creative tool to put somebody in a position for either a short-term or long-term pushover.
Or an opportunity to get yourself out of an injury situation, which we've seen in the past as well.
Yeah.
2009, I believe. Ken Kennedy, either 2009 or 2008. Ken Kennedy wins the briefcase. Kennedy gets hurt. Edge takes the briefcase from Kennedy. SmackDown Heavyweight Champion The Undertaker gets hurt. Edge cashes in to win the SmackDown title.
Speaking of injuries, fast forwarding a little bit here, and I say a little bit, because honestly, you don't have to go far. The first one happens in this very match. What is up with the... Because I can't imagine these are all real injuries that happened this night.
Well, the ladder match is one of the more dangerous matches in the WWE, but I specifically know where you're going with the first question, and that is Sin Cara.
Yeah. They had, like, they sold the hell out of two major injuries in this pay-per-view.
The Sin Cara one is the Celtic cross through the ladder, the Razor's Edge through the ladder.
Yeah.
We talked about the ladder there. Wooden ladder spray painted to look like a metallic ladder.
Yeah, somebody definitely fucked up on a camera angle because you could tell that was not a metallic ladder pretty much the entire time. they had a camera on the EMTs working on Sin Cara.
Which brings you to the second point of that right there of you asked me on Discord, was that injury real or was it a work? The answer to your question is that injury was a work.
I had a feeling that
Sin Cara was not legitimately injured there. It was done to write him off television because he had just failed a drug test. Remember what I said about we'll talk more about that later? It's now later.
So he fails the drug test. They write him off with a serious injury, so they can replace him.
Prescription painkillers. He violated the wellness policy.
So they could fire him, replace him with the good.
Wasn't fired. Was not fired yet. Would come back, I think, 60 days later. So approximately September-ish, roughly in that era. Was not fired yet, but does not last much more than a year after the show. I don't even think it's a full calendar year before he is gone. I had
a feeling that had to be a work because he didn't see, like, Sin Cara, I think, oversold it a little bit with the jittering.
Yeah, the seizure almost. Yeah, I thought that was a bit much.
Like, that's not something that would happen to you unless you have, like, a neck injury. And the way he landed through that ladder was not a neck injury.
If anything, it would have been spine, and spine would have.
He had a spinal, and he would have just been completely paralyzed.
Yeah, right.
Like, that would have been more of a better sell to just, like, sit there kind of shaking his head like, I can't move.
Although, to be fair, do you really want people selling spinal injuries, though?
Do you want
kind
people...
of that line that you don't want to cross.
I kind of argue you don't want people selling neck or seizures as well, but...
I would agree with that. I would say the seizure sell is in poor taste.
I mean, I think the entire...
the
whole sell period was in poor taste, but...
Devon Dudley was one of the ones who made that Twitch sell probably the most fond user of said Twitch cell. Although with Devon, it was more of like a slow kind of twitch, rather than that like arm shaking, quivering that Sin Cara was doing, almost mocking a seizure.
This statement may be in poor taste, given what you just said, but it sounded like, it looked like he was having a seizure on coke.
Vicodin, as I understand it, but
okay, kind of close.
Point being is, I thought it was excessive.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I get writing him off. I understand that you wanted to do something that maybe the casual fan wouldn't notice as a reason to write him off, rather than overtly coming out and saying, hey, this dude flunked the drug test, so he has to go away for a while.
Oh, yeah, no, nowadays WWE don't give a fuck. They just come straight out and just say, X violated wellness policy, they're suspended.
Cara was a very popular babyface. WWE's constantly looking for that next major Mexican attraction, Hispanic-speaking attraction. We've all talked about it before. So they thought that Sin Cara could be it. Obviously, that did not pan out. Ray was still their biggest Mexican draw at this point.
Okay, so it may have been a statement that wouldn't hold up well under scrutiny, but
I forgot to ask him what he thinks of the network's new mascot. You
should let him know after.
He's not over here right now. He'll make his debut tomorrow night on the Broadhurst Watkins Sports Report.
Sports in Black and White.
Yeah, that one. Our 2022/23 year-end awards.
With a slight bit of news where I get to tell you both I told you so. I mean, I already talked about it with Eric a little bit on Parallel Convergence last night, so you may already be aware if you watched at least the Parallel Convergence Sports Report, Sports and Bits and Bytes.
I do appreciate that your guys' Sports and Bits and Bytes scrolls across the bottom of the screen. It's a nice touch. It's like ESPN's bottom line.
But back to this though. I mean, that makes sense when you put that all into perspective. I still think the sell was too much.
Yeah, a little over the top. I get the idea behind it because of the issues of not wanting to write off your babyface star as he failed a drug test, but I don't know if I necessarily want my babyface star written off as he faked a seizure either.
Yeah. I will also say, I know we said it a little bit earlier, but this was definitely well into heel Michael Cole, who was notorious for being a little bit too much.
I believe the word you're looking for is overbearing.
No, that's Booker T.
No, Booker T's just awful at commentary.
He's also overbearing when he starts getting into his gimmicks. Like, they mentioned the spin of Rudy later on at some point, and I heard him say that, and Booker just, like, his voice sounds like he lights up like the 4th of July kid in a candy store.
Well, you know what Booker T's favorite thing to talk about is? Booker
Himself,
T.
Yeah. Because he's the 5-time... Yeah, I'm not going
to... Yada, yada. Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly. I like Booker as a wrestler. As a commentator, he's a good wrestler.
Mutter, butter, papers, please, mutter, butter. But yeah, no. I could deal with heel Cole. I can't deal with Booker T.
Let's talk about the finish of this match. Were you surprised to see Bryan win? Somebody who's watched this show multiple times, as we discussed on Discord, I already knew every result going into the matches. So
yeah,
I knew what was going to happen. I was reminded of some things that I had forgotten about when I went back and rewatched it, because obviously, as you watch a show for the third or even the fourth, or in my case, the fifth or sixth time, you pick up things that you don't notice originally. For you watching the show for the first time in God knows how many years.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure this is my second watching of this pay-per-view, but first time I watched it might have been live as it happened or shortly thereafter on the network. Like when the network first came out.
Okay, so the network wasn't a thing until 2014.
Like I said, when the network came out. So, like, I'm talking at a minimum, like, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Right. Okay, so overall, were you surprised to see Bryan win?
Yes and no. Because I remember Bryan ends up getting a push. Like, I believe it was his first major push around this time.
It does lead to his first championship win. Ironically enough, we mentioned Sheamus winning the title at TLC 2010. Bryan would win the title at TLC 2011.
So I'm not surprised to see Bryan win. In my mind, it's a
spoiler alert.
In my mind, it's okay. I know this guy is supposed to be getting his first big push around this time frame. This is just the creative setup to get him to it.
Okay, so I'm going to borrow from BWSR here. I don't know if you know this or not, but wrestling betting odds are actually a thing.
Yeah. Even though it's all scripted, but yeah.
The betting favorite going into this match was actually Cody.
I'm not surprised at that.
And the reason being is it was widely believed that Cody was going to feud with Randy Orton over the World Heavyweight Championship.
Didn't he end up having a feud with Orton a few years down the line, like 2015 or something like that?
I know he was involved in a three-way with Orton at WrestleMania that also included Ted DiBiase Jr., but I think that was before this.
I remember there was a pretty, maybe I'm mistaken, but I remember Rhodes had a pretty big feud with Orton that spanned at least 2 pay-per-views.
I don't believe so. To my knowledge,
maybe I'm mistaken.
I don't believe they've ever had a one-on-one pay-per-view match.
I'm not saying one-on-one pay-per-view match. I'm saying feud that went into a pay-per-view.
Maybe on television, like they might have had a couple of matches on television, but I'm fairly certain they've never had a pay-per-view match against each other one-on-one. I would have to
I
look
might.
that up.
I was gonna say maybe I'm maybe I'm misremembering something then, but I could swear I remember Cody Rhodes going up against Orton for a short while. Maybe not two pay-per-views, but I remember maybe it was one and it was with the DiBiase. I honestly don't remember.
The DiBiase thing was WrestleMania 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Because that was a three-way. I believe that was the year after Orton won the Rumble in '08. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that the three-way was either.
I might have to go back and try to look that up a little bit myself. And
the three-way was either 2009 or 2010. It might have been 2010, actually. Now that I think about it.
Because I remember Rhodes was in a little bit of a. It wasn't. I don't think it was that long of a feud, but I do remember he was in a bit of a feud with Orton for a while, and I know Orton was holding a belt when it happened. I don't remember which belt, but I know Orton was holding a belt.
I know what you're referring to. That was on Raw. They never met. They never met on pay-per-view. I do know what you're referring to now, because it was around the time that Rhodes was about to leave Legacy.
Yeah,
that never made it to pay-per-view.
I thought that did make it to a pay-per-view.
They had the three-way at Mania where it was Orton, Rhodes, and DiBiase, but Orton was no longer champion by that point.
Oh.
The three-way was at 2010's WrestleMania, by the way.
Yeah, because I remember Rhodes was like, I don't get my fair shot at, being a champion or something like he wanted he won a number one contender and a shot at a belt and decided to go after Orton for it. And that panned out over a few months. And
for those wanting to see said triple threat match that we're discussing, WrestleMania 26 and 2010. So how much time are we giving to this next match?
This next match is the Divas match, yes?
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's the Bella Twins back when they actually wrestled and didn't talk shit and be engaged to stars of the company and have drama TV shows on TLC.
Technically, but your point stands. All right, so a couple of things to discuss from this match real quick here, because
that's pretty much where I'm at with it. I said it in our Discord. I will say it on air. The Divas era for women was literally the eye candy, and as you said, let me find the quote: "Be passable in ring."
I mean, there were a few women who were better than passable. Like in my opinion,
oh yeah, you're not
wrong. One of my favorites from this era was actually a very good worker, and she's still a good worker now that she's made her return to the company, that being Beth Phoenix. That being said, a lot of the women that were in the title picture in this era, the Bella Twins, Kelly, who was the champion, and again, Kelly retains the title here with K2. I think the exact quote I used in our Discord is the best worker in this match isn't even in this match. It was Eve Torres who was out on the floor. And Eve Torres became famous post-wrestling career. She married one of the Gracie brothers of MMA fame.
I remember reading about that.
Hoyce, I think. The match itself, 4 minutes, 46 seconds, 4:48, excuse me. Do yourself a favor. It's a long pay-per-view. There's still 4 more matches. Get up, get yourself a snack, let it play in the background.
This was the refreshment match, yeah.
If you catch it when you come back and it's still on, super. If not, you ain't missed a damn thing.
This was definitely the refreshment match.
I will give credit to Kel.
Yeah, refreshment match. That's what we called it, right?
The concession match.
Concession match. Yeah, we'll get these right eventually.
It's where they could sell merchandise, let people use the restroom, and get them ready for the rest of the show. I will give Kelly credit for one of the bumps that she took in that match. At one point, she puts Brie in the reverse head scissors that Candice Michelle was known for eventually. And There's a spot where Brie pushes her off the apron and Kelly's face bumps to the floor, and it looked brutal. Mostly because I don't think Kelly knew how to bump it and actually ended up taking the bump square on her face.
That's a possibility.
Yeah. Just a reminder, kids, if you're going to wrestle, stick to shit you know how to do. We here at the Not a Network don't want to see anybody get hurt.
Please don't make me start having to put the jackass disclaimer in front of this episode, or in front of the show start of this episode.
The people you see are trained professionals. Do not try this at home. Okay, most of the time they're trained professionals. I'm not entirely sure the Bella Twins were trained professionals at this point. I digress.
I mean, you're not wrong, and we talked about this more in depth in our private chat, and I'm going to leave the bulk of that discussion there. But all I'm going to say is, I still stand, or I stand by the fact that the Bella Twins were not it for multiple reasons to be the face of the women of the WWE, or specifically the face of the Divas at that time. There were much better options, both in attractiveness and actual in-ring talent.
I give you the aforementioned Beth Phoenix. I believe Mickie James is still with the company at this point. I'm not entirely certain on that. I believe she is. Melina Perez.
Yeah, Melina's there. I believe Maurice is with the company right now. I thought Maurice was pretty good.
Maurice at that point was not good. Maurice was very...
Was this like new Maurice, not before she got good Maurice?
Almost certainly, yes. Because I want to say Maurice's main roster debut was right around the time of one of the early Tough Enoughs, which would have been in 2009, 2010.
Because I know she was not that great in the ring when she started out, but she ended up taking it seriously and became pretty damn good.
I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that she actually put in the work and put in the effort.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. She actually did put in the work.
Eventually, Nikki and Brie would get better. I wouldn't say they got good because that would be a disclaimer. I will say that they got better, and you could see Brie specifically was developing quite nicely until Brie stopped caring. And when Brie stopped caring, despite the fact that she'll say she didn't, it was very noticeable that Brie stopped caring. We've now spent more time talking about this match than the match actually went. I say we move forward.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Although, that being said, happy 40th birthday, Maurice.
Yes. That woman can still get it.
Canada.
Reminds me of a slightly older version of BB Rexa, who can also get it. But anyways, moving on.
Family-ish show?
We're talking about wrestling from when wrestling was good. I don't know how...
I want to say this show has...
We're not point of viewer, but we're definitely not a family show.
I want to say this. I want to say Money in the Bank 2011 has a PG-13 rating, so we should be okay.
We're not PG-13 though. We're definitely in the TV-14 era of.
Well, so far there's only been one F-bomb on the show, and it was me for once.
We're family adjacent. Yeah, like I said, we're not point of viewer, but we're definitely not a family show.
I'm telling you, Watkins, if we do merchandise for the network, that needs to be a shirt. Family adjacent show? ?
We need a family show. We need a hashtag family show. Hashtag family adjacent ? And then hashtag POV probably as network ratings.
I feel like we could probably get together off air and figure that out.
Yeah, we probably could. So
on a scale of Nielsen ratings to POV, how vulgar are we talking? All right, continue.
I'm not going to make any comment there. At least not on air.
Moving forward.
So I believe...
Voice of reason.
Allegedly.
So they say.
He's
they. You're up to Mark Henry and Big Show.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're up to Henry's show.
Solid little big man match, actually.
Honestly, as far as like the big men matches go, I think I'm putting this up there in top 3. I hadn't seen this before, but the fact that you've got 2 big ass guys.
Henry is around the 450-pound mark at this point. Or excuse me, Henry's around 400 pounds. Show is around 450 at this point. Yes.
I've met Show in real life, not too far removed from this date. Give or take a couple of years. More on that later. Yeah, no, Show was a big motherfucker.
That's 2 for you, those of you keeping track at home.
Again, family adjacent. As long as I don't sit here saying that I'm gonna
bleep you in the bleep with the bleep and son of a bleep.
Bleep BB Rex.
Basically, like the old Family Guy bit where it's just a long extended FCC bleep.
Yeah.
So the thing about this match is Henry and Show, for some reason, despite the fact that there are not a lot of people that these two have chemistry with, they always had really good chemistry against each other for some inexplicable reason.
I was going to say, I know that this isn't anywhere close to the first time I've seen these two in a ring.
They would go to a no contest. They would go real quick. They would go to a no contest at the prior month's Capital Punishment pay-per-view.
The fact that this is the only time I've seen what I guess you could call the super heavyweights or the big guys. I don't know how we want to refer to
Haas division.
Yeah, the big Haas division. To see wrestlers there pull off submission holds against each other and can actually sell them decently. I think Show probably needed a little bit more work on that. But then again, when does a guy like Show get put into a submission hold?
And or a position where he's selling for pretty much anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to talk about the post match because you had a genuine curiosity about the post match here.
Oh yeah, no.
The Pillmanizing thing with the chair and Show's ankle after the match. So as mentioned, Henry picks up the win with Death from Above, which is kind of a non-official name for the move, the running splash. Henry's actual finish is the world's strongest slam, which is a fall forward slam. Death from Above was the name that he used as Sexual Chocolate. It was also the name of that big splash when it was used by Viscera. May he rest in peace as well.
I remember Viscera.
Fun fact, me and Viscera share a birthday. It was yesterday.
Oh.
Also born on February 14th, Tommy Dreamer.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So I played the wrestler game with one of my friends yesterday, where we find out which wrestler's birthday is closest to ours. If you don't know who Sanity is, there was a guy in Sanity called Killian Dane.
Yeah, none of that's ringing a bell. Sorry.
On the Independents, he was known as Big Damo. His birthday is literally 6 days after mine. He was born.
Now I kind of wonder who's close to my birthday.
What year are we talking? Give me the month.
November 16th.
Of what year?
I'll put it in the chat.
All right. Because that's how I would search for that. All right. I'm that much younger than you, son of a... Okay,
yes,
fine.
we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I'm aware. You said November 16th.
You're the old man of the network. Yes, November 16th.
Nielsen's older than I am.
I know.
The closest one to you is December 27th, 1990. And that would be Thea Trinidad, a.k.a. Zelina Vega.
Really?
She is about a month younger than you.
I'll be damned.
I can send you the link to the website if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out later.
We can throw the link out there if people want to check and play the wrestler birthday game themselves.
Let's do that. I'm gonna put that. If you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, you'll see the link in the chat here. Apologies to our friends joining us via Twitter. Our software is not compatible with Twitter comments.
itnwwe.com/wrestling/pro-wrestlers-birthdays. I will give the visual representation for our Twitter followers. Or the audio.
Yeah, I was going to say the audio portion. Yeah.
Or you could also check out the show on YouTube or Twitch in order to find the actual link itself, too. We have nothing to show.
But show itself.
Facts. And as me and Mr. Watkins would say, we can't be bought.
But we sure as hell can be rented. Send all sponsorship inquiries to podcast at AmericanWhammy.com.
We can damn sure be rented. It's a shtick.
It is a shtick. Because we have nothing to shtick but shtick itself.
I would argue that we're full of shtick.
We are full of shtick.
All right, let's get back to it.
Speaking of shtick, this post-match...
You know what happened? Henry shticked him.
All right, you know what? Do we have it? I don't have it. I got to get Eric to upload the doggo and the monkey into here.
I feel like there would be a better... We would need a wrestling punchline thing.
What could be used as a wrestling punchline?
I have the perfect thing for it. A Nelson Muntz ha ha.
Yeah.
Because Nelson's character on The Simpsons is well established as a wrestling fan.
Yeah. That could work.
Although, you know what blew my mind? Nelson Muntz, voiced by a woman.
Yeah, I actually knew that.
Nancy Cartwright, the same woman who does Bart.
Yep.
I want to get her book, because I would imagine that is a fascinating read.
Oh, yeah.
My Life as a 10-year-old boy.
You know, actually, all of the versions of Ash from Pokemon have been voiced by women.
From the, you mean the animated shows?
Yeah, the animated Pokemon. All the different voices of Ash have been, I believe they're up to 3 different voice actors over the show's lifetime.
Welcome
all 3 of them have been women.
Welcome to the Broadhurst Espinoza Entertainment Hour.
Tabloids in... I got nothing. Super viewer, help us out.
Shows in highs and lows.
I'm sold.
All right, back to it.
Eric, write it down. That's a new gimmick. Write it down.
Back to the Henry Big Show thing with the Pillmanizing in the chair. I appreciate them having to bring out the golf cart for show.
He agrees. Yeah, I love how they sold them bringing out the stretcher and then them realizing, oh shit, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, that's a almost 500-pound man we're trying to put on here. This is not going to end well.
Yeah, those stretchers, at least the normal ones that are in, normal ambulances, I believe are rated for like $450 at most.
I don't even think it's that much. I think it's closer to 4.
That might be 4.
I want to say I've had that conversation with Jason Teasley before because he used to be an EMT tech. And I think he said that the most weight that most of those the wheel stretchers can do is like 400 pounds, which is why a lot of times when they have somebody that's that large, like you see those things with like the people getting forklift out of their houses and stuff. It's legitimately because they have to, because the other modes of transportation that they won't support.
They do have what are called bariatric stretchers that can hold like 750, 1,000 pounds, but they have to come with special bariatric ambulances. And I could go into that, but that would take us way too topic. So
Real check. There you go.
life is like a game show.
Thursdays here on the Not a
Probably
Network
not
Network.
coming up next
Tomorrow on the Not a Network
because it's
Podcast
coming
Network.
up tomorrow. Yeah, I'm like, I always get thrown off when I look at the date of the calendar and see Thursday because I'm used to being like an overnight guy. So seeing 12:09 Thursday.
So
My
technically
brain
later
thinks it's
today here on the East.
Thursday. Yeah.
Technically later today here on the East Coast, but for me and you, it's still Wednesday
No, it's
night.
tomorrow. Yeah, for you. Yeah, it's still Wednesday. So, but I'll look and see Thursday. Be like, shit, it's Thursday already. That show's next. What the fuck? No.
BWSR at approximately 8:00. Life is like a game show. Hopefully around 10:30.
11.
Either way, I do know that we can tell everybody what we're covering, though. The coverage of Game Show Marathon for Life is Like a Game Show begins tomorrow across many of these same affiliates as we go to The Price is Right with host Ricky Lake, which just sounds so wrong on so many levels.
Look, folks, if you thought I was on a soapbox 2 weeks ago on Parallel Convergence about Bjergsen, wait till I start talking about
Pop the booyah!
Wait till I start talking about Ricky Lake. But yeah, so cart for show.
Oh, okay. So I mentioned off air when we were talking about this on Discord. This is actually the start of Mark Henry's major push. This would see. Okay, so the next month is SummerSlam, and spoiler alert: the result of one of the future matches is reversed at SummerSlam. I'll explain when we get there. The next challenger for said match is Mark Henry, who wins the title.
I think I remember this.
I will explain that when we get to there on the show. We do have another match or two to cover before we get to it. The point being is that this leads to Mark Henry. This is the beginning of what is commonly known as the Hall of Pain run for Mark Henry. When I charge for air, you better keep your payments due. That's what I do thing. It comes from this era of Mark Henry. So that used to be a sound clip on the reaction too. Mark Henry's, that's what I do.
We'll see what we can do.
We'll see what we can do. I knew that was going to pop him. I'm
Harry
absolutely
Broadhurst 2 for 2 tonight.
I'm horrible at doing that to my co-host. Eric yells at me all the time because I'm constantly popping him on air.
Gonna need to think scrolling at the bottom. Times co-host popped tonight.
It's the 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins of the podcast. Make it 3.
No, that's funny because we actually used the 1 p.m. Kirk.
Yeah, I know. That's where the reference came from.
No. We used that scroller on Point of Viewer last Sunday.
Of course you did. The season may be over, but 1 p.m. Kurt won't be forgotten anytime soon.
We're going to be talking about 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins at least for the next season and a half.
Folks, if it makes you feel any better, I promise not to gritty. All right, let's move forward over to the Raw Money in the Bank.
Enough. Yeah, I was going to say enough popping. So you were going to mention about show with the cart for the third time.
No, I already did. The injury was to write show off TV because he needed time off to heal. From I believe he had surgery, actually. He comes back around October or November of 2011.
All right.
And then the Mark Henry thing leads to a heavyweight title match that Henry wins for his first heavyweight championship of his career.
I definitely have to say this is an unlucky pay-per-view for having to write people off.
So shows was known in advance. I want to say that Sin Cara failed a drug test like 2 days before the show And that's when they did what they did to write him off due to the wellness violation. I apologize, folks. I'm dealing with sinus issues. It was 60 degrees here in Ohio today. It is fucking February.
Yes,
Yes.
allergies suck.
That's 3, and that one was deserved. Trust me. If you know, you know. All right, back to it. Alberto Del Schmucko.
Do we
You know
have
what
to
the
talk
wo-
about Albert? Do we have to talk about Alberto Del Schmucko?
You know what my problem with this was? You know what this pay-per-view was missing? The best part of his act. There was no Ricardo.
Agreed. Because
'Cause
the
every-
very next night, Ricardo comes back.
And everybody knows the best part of Alberto's shtick was Alberto Del Rio. Exactly. Everybody knows that was the best part of his shtick. He wasn't getting over on his. I mean, okay, he kind of did. And in fairness, this is before we knew that dude was a Looney Tune.
He was getting over because of Ricardo. Let's be real here.
Well, that's fair, actually.
Him coming out in a $260,000 Lamborghini Huracan was not doing him any favors.
See, I think there's.
Especially honking the horn like, you know, he's some college frat boy who rented it for the weekend with his daddy's
Okay,
credit
but I
card.
think that was the point. For him to intentionally act as obnoxious as possible. I believe that was the point. And to be fair, we've had this conversation off air, I will bring it on air. Del Rio is Hispanic wrestling royalty. For those who don't know, Alberto Del Rio is actually Dos Caras Jr. Dos Caras was a famous Mexican wrestler who starred in a lot of El Santos films as well. So when it comes to wrestling lineage, Del Rio is Hispanic, or Hispanic Mexican specifically royalty.
And this is what I don't get, right? Why treat him in such a fashion then? It almost seems insulting to take him from, you know, his heritage and lineage, if you will, in Mexico and put him on this.
You want the honest truth?
Was it Zack Ryder that was the guy from Long Island? The
Yes.
woo woo woo?
Yes.
Yeah, on this Zack Ryder type gimmick.
All right, so I'm going to respond to that with this. The same reason that they made Dustin Rhodes Gold Dust instead of letting him be the son of a plumber. It's an attempt to differentiate from his family lineage and something that they could market as their own creation.
I could see where you're coming from with that, but I don't know. I don't think it ever really went over that well, personally.
I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Del Rio was A, injury prone, and B, let's be honest here, kind of a dick.
I don't think there's any kind of about it.
I have to say kind of for legal purposes.
Fair.
Again, IYK there. I'll leave it at that. Anybody else in this match you would ask me about?
Not really. I pretty much know all of these guys in this match. All these names are familiar.
So my favorite person in this match is actually Evan Bourne. I was a huge Evan Bourne guy. I was a big Matt Sydal guy. That would be the guy behind the Evan Bourne character, Matthew Corlin, a.k.a. Matt Sydal. Sydal would not be much longer for the WWF because Sydal liked something that back then wasn't legal in the WWE. It is now no longer tested for, but back then it was, and it was a suspension.
Say no more. Network rule number 3.
Correct. That specific substance as well.
Well, I mean, I kind of figured when you said it the way you said it.
Yeah. Let's call a spade here. Sydal was a pothead.
Again, network rule number 3.
Fun fact, you know who else got suspended for it as well, and right around the same time frame? R-Truth.
I was going to say, I remember there was a
synthetic version of it.
Yeah, there was a. By the way, don't do synthetic pot, folks. Just.
Well, the idea is that the belief is that they thought synthetic pot wouldn't show up on a drug test. It did. So not only were they suspended for failing the drug test, they were also fined for trying to circumvent the drug test.
Yeah, I remember when synthetic pot had its resurgence, and yeah, no, synthetic pot is 10 times worse than the real shit.
All right, let's also talk about another name from this match that might be long forgotten to wrestling fans. That would be Alex Riley.
Whatever happened to Alex Riley?
I'm so glad you asked that, unintentionally segueing me into my point here. And I know you didn't mean to do that. I appreciate it. Alex Riley just recently returned to pro wrestling last Sunday for the NWA at their pay-per-view. He wrestled EC3, Ethan Carter III, under his given name, Kevin Kiley.
Well, I'll be damned.
Literally just made his return to pro wrestling this past Sunday. February 12th, for those of you listening at a future point in time. 2023. I want to talk about the finish because you seem to express some outrage over the finish, and I actually liked it.
I wasn't a fan of the finish.
So the ladder's
it
not
works as a finish, but
the ladder's not cooperating aside. I'll tell you why I like it. The reason that I like it is because you have the main event scheduled for Cena versus Punk. Regardless of who wins that match, the winner of that match is coming out of that match as a babyface. Because fans were not going to boo Punk in Chicago, and honestly, most of the fans agreed with Punk in the pipe bomb promo from 3 weeks prior, anyways. And Cena, as divisive as he may have been, still had way more supporters than detractors during this time frame. Chicago on this very evening being an obvious exception. I take you back to the Rob Van Dam match at One Night Stand in 2006 for another example of that. That was just a case of circumstance dictates situation, where Cena was put into a situation going into the match that he knew he wasn't going to be cheered, and he was fine with that because he knew that his job was to have the match of his career and to put the story with Punk and himself over going into that match.
Yeah.
Del Rio was coming out of this match as an absolute dick, character-wise, not person-wise. Again, IYKYK. So the idea behind Del Rio ripping Mysterio's mask off to pull him off of that ladder was you wanted Alberto to go about this as dickishly as humanly possible to ensure that if it was Del Rio versus Cena or Del Rio versus Punk going forward, assuming they were somehow able to figure out a way to make Punk stay, the fans would not get behind Del Rio. Your faces are faces, your heels are heels. Cena's kind of a tweener, but is face to most of the audience.
So pretty much this finish is
it's a heat seeker.
Yeah, it's we need to make sure that Del Rio is seen as heel, so we're gonna finish this match in the cleanest but dirtiest way possible.
The wrestling term for it is heat-seeking finish. It's a finish that is intentionally booked the way that it was in order to put heat or to get a reaction onto to get a certain reaction onto a certain person.
And this is why you're the Wrestling Encyclopedia, Mr. Broadhurst.
I do what I can. Our semi-main event sees the World Championship defended as Christian challenges champion Randy Orton. So let's go for a little bit of backstory here, shall we?
I had a feeling this was coming.
We're going to drive back to WrestleMania 2011, WrestleMania 27 specifically, where our opening contest was Alberto Del Schmucko challenging for the heavyweight championship against Edge.
I think I remember that.
Edge retains. The very next night on Raw, Edge comes out and makes an announcement. Edge has bulging discs in his neck. Edge has to have surgery. Edge's career is over. And it was for 9 years. Advancements in modern technology, you can all be thankful for those. The following month in 2011 is Extreme Rules, where the main event, or the semi-main event in this instance, is a ladder match between Del Schmucko and Edge's former tag team partner, Christian, to crown a new World Heavyweight Champion. The belt was vacant from when Edge retired until the pay-per-view. Christian wins. Christian comes out on SmackDown the following Friday.
5 days later,
Yeah.
loses the belt to Randy Orton.
There is a rematch at the Capital Punishment pay-per-view that we talked about a little bit earlier, where Christian's foot is underneath the bottom rope and the referee misses it. Christian then starts the one more match thing that he became synonymous with in the WWE from that. He is given that match by the SmackDown general manager, holla holla playa, Teddy Long, with the added stipulation that the champion's advantage is waived for this contest. For those of you who don't know, the champion's advantage means that a countout or a disqualification and the champion still retains. Therefore, the belt could change hands on a countout or a DQ. Throughout the entirety of the match, Christian is seen provoking Orton. Various things, the attempted sliding of the chair, the slap in the face. Throughout all the course of the match, you see a series of underhanded tactics from Christian in order to try to get Orton to snap. Because let's not forget, this is the same Orton that just a couple of years prior kicked Triple H in the face and then kissed Stephanie right over his body. So Orton as a character is known to have quite a few issues with his temper in the past in the WWE. It's a smart strategy. Lawler says as much. Cole says as much during the commentary for the match, and it's an excellent point that they raise up. And in my opinion, this was the best commentary. These two matches, the semi-main and the main, are the best they are on commentary all night, specifically for Cole and Lawler, because again, Booker adds nothing.
You're not wrong.
So
I don't disagree with any of that.
we get to the point towards the end of the match where Christian spits in Orton's face. Rears back and hawks a loogie. Orton loses it, as one is wont to do when one is spit in the face. A series of mounted punches. The referee finally pulls him up. A referee finally pulls Orton off of the mounted punches. Christian stands up, and how did I phrase it to you on Discord? I'm going to go watch Orton kick Christian in the twins. Because that is legitimately what Orton does. He takes one step back, hauls off, and boot punch Christian square in the balls, right in front of the referee for the disqualification. Your winner and new world champion for the second time, Christian. I love the story behind this match. It does not get the credit that it deserves. And the rematch the following month at SummerSlam is even better. But the story behind Christian going to any length, any depth in order to get Orton aggravated to the point that he loses control and costs himself the title is such genius storytelling and is so underutilized in the world of pro wrestling that I appreciate a classic being brought back to life for a modern audience.
Oh yeah, no, that honestly, I think it was a great match. I definitely didn't see the nut punt coming, as you officially documented it as.
Yes, that is the official terminology that I use on the match results that I typed on Discord. World title: Christian defeats Orton, DQ (parenthesis nut punt parenthesis) at 12:14.
Can I just say that it gets better? I would even go so far to pull a...
But wait, there's more.
Are you referring to the post-match interaction?
Oh, yeah.
What did you think of my official dubbing of it on Discord? The Spanish announce table's revenge.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
it was supposed to. It didn't.
Yeah, I was going to say, the first time it didn't, you could see this,
this look of what the fuck over Orton's face.
But he did it in a chaotic way. Like, he gets this, smile on his face of he didn't expect it to not collapse, but at the same time, he's got this smirk on his face like, I get to do it again. Because obviously, they want that table to go under, right?
That table is supposed to do the job. The table had other ideas.
Somebody reinforced that table or forgot to pull a pin or something.
Or as Matthew Gregg from Botchamania would say, I am the table. That's 4.
Yeah, no. So they go off. Orton, they're trying to get him out of the ring. Teddy Long's out there at one point.
Orton is opening not just a can, but a whole case of whoop ass on Christian on the floor.
Yeah,
They brawl over to the.
They brawl over to one of the side aprons, and
The Spanish announce table gets cleared, as they are wont to do during pay-per-views. You ever notice it's almost always the Spanish table? Anyway.
Yeah. Unless for whatever reason they decide to pull a 2-in-1, the 2-for-1 special, or a 2-in-1 nighter. Where
that happens.
That happens a few times throughout WWE history. I'm aware.
Sometimes even 3 announce tables. When there's a French table at ringside, or not a German table at ringside.
That's usually just WrestleManias, though.
The big 4:
Yeah.
Rumble, Mania, Slam, and Survivor Series.
But yeah, so they brawl over to one of the aprons, and then Orton goes to walk out, like he's done. And then he gets all the way up to the edge of the ramp. And then he gets this, like, psychotic twitch in his eye and turns around and goes back for another round. And finally, after, like by the time Orton's on round 4 of a case of whoop ass on Christian, he takes him back to the Spanish announce table again, because I think somebody probably managed to tell him, hey, go for it again.
I don't know if you ever noticed the referees doing this.
Yeah.
They have an earpiece.
Oh, I know that. I know the refs have an earpiece.
To
By the way,
communicate
that ref, which I did not recognize as, oh God, you said the name and I can't find it now. Scott Armstrong.
That's the Punk match.
Oh, that was the Punk match. Oh, right, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the referee for this match is Nick Patrick.
No, sorry, I'm getting the next match mixed up a little bit here. My bad.
Go ahead. You're good. That's why I'm here, to keep you on track.
But yeah, no, they're like, I could tell somebody probably whispered something to Orton that couldn't be heard on air. Hey, try the table again.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So they go back to the table a second time, and I'm like, okay, this table's going to collapse for sure.
Hold on, I'm getting a message in my ear. It said, I am the table. A second time. At which point Orton's back is like, you fucking suck.
Yeah.
Fun,
and I'm sure Christian is probably actually hurting right now, because I can only imagine the pain of the table not.
It's worse when the table doesn't break than when it does.
Yeah.
Because you're hitting a hard surface and recoiling. As opposed to a table that does break, it has some give to it.
Yeah. And I'm sure whoever was in charge of that table is supposed to be breaking.
Yeah, somebody got a stern talking to after that match.
If not fired.
Years of doing the RKO landed Randy Orton in the emergency room late last year.
Oh.
He had to have spinal fusion surgery on his lower back.
Oh, no.
There is talk going around that Orton might be returning around WrestleMania if he's able to, hopefully by SummerSlam for one last run.
We're going to try that. I apologize. One of my studio lights is battery powered and went out on me. So
you're good. I can still see you just fine.
Completely dark on one side here.
You're fine. I can see you just fine.
Yeah, somebody definitely got a talking to about that table, for sure.
Shall we go to the main event?
Yes, please.
The reason that I suggested this show and what I said to you was my match of the year for 2011 and probably my match of the decade for the 2010s When I said that, I did not realize that Taker and Shawn at 25 was the year prior. So I may take that back just slightly and say that it is my second best match of the 2010s. It's in the discussion for greatest match of all time in the WWE in terms of story, in terms of content, and in terms of finish. I said that to you, and you said, and I quote, I'm going to watch this uninterrupted. I will let you know what I think once I am done. Based on your hype, because for you to say that must mean I'm in for something special.
Yeah, no. When you said that, I'm like, let me go back and if you're saying it's that good, I'm gonna watch it in its entirety, unspoiled, uninterrupted, and completely focused.
Um, how does
Because
that
yeah, I know you, and I know you know wrestling,
how did that
and
how did that statement hold up under scrutiny?
it definitely it aged well. It aged like a fine bottle of a 1940s wine.
Sorry, a little bit of
Oh, allergies.
dry throat, a little bit of dry throat too. I finished my Coca Cola. I need to go get something else to drink. I'll do so here in a few moments. But
Well, why don't you do that while I kind of go through the match as I saw it.
all right, pull me from the screen for a few seconds. Let me go grab something to drink. I'll be right.
So walking into this match, I mean, I tried to keep myself pretty level neutral here. Obviously, Harry Broadhurst saying, "Hey, this is a damn good match." Yeah, that's going to put a little bit more expectation on it for me, but just the promo package alone going in and how they, intertwined CM Punk's pipe bomb interview and Vince McMahon telling Cena he's fired if he doesn't win. Just that already, I'm like, oh shit, this is if the hype is good. Harry saying it's good. We know Cena and Punk are good. I've heard this match before in people's top 10 lists. I have seen this match once before, but not in its entirety. Like, not in the, what was the runtime? 33 minutes? Yeah. Not in the full 30-minute span that it went. But when I think it was about the 6 or 7 minute mark, I believe it was Lawler mentions, not by the name Montreal Screwjob, but when Lawler explicitly mentions the Montreal Screwjob on air, which, as I have always known it, at least for this time frame, talking about the Montreal Screwjob, talking about that pay-per-view, that was as much non grata on air as, talking about, Benoit, for example.
Wouldn't quite go that far because they recreated Montreal several times over the years. And the reason I say that is if you go to the 98 Survivor Series, the very year after, Rock taps Mick Foley with a sharpshooter. Vince calls for the bell. No Way Out 2003, Rock puts Hulk Hogan in the sharpshooter. Vince calls for the bell. They recreate Montreal over the years. But the fans that are watching at home are going to understand the insinuation that Lawler and Cole are making by talking about Montreal, basically saying, yeah, Punk has the title match because Vince gave him the title match. Because Vince gave him the title match under the assumption that he would get Punk to resign. But there is no chance in hell of Vince McMahon letting CM Punk walk out WWE champion.
I knew this was coming. I prepared for it.
No chance. That's what Yeah, God.
I honestly
I think the mentioning
the
of Montreal was an excellent bit of foreshadowing as to what was to come.
oh yeah, 100%.
And I loved the fact that Cena's character stuck to his morals and rolled out and laid out Johnny Ace before he could pull a Vince at Montreal.
Oh, I was getting to that for sure. But
If I if
before
I
that, I just the amount of physicality, the amount of finishers, the amount of just the showmanship between these two gentlemen and their capability to put up with 33 minutes of grueling wrestling, because yeah, it's scripted, yeah, you know how to take a bump, the moves are performed in a way to, be as, least painful and least damaging as possible, but finishers certainly. I'm
go ahead and,
getting
go ahead and send me full screen real quick.
I mean, I could show it on my end so it doesn't look janky off of a.
I'm just holding it up to the thing up to the phone so that way they can see my comment about the match.
Yeah, if not, this is the sports entertainment storytelling as it's at its finest. Like I said, I can show that on Discord on my end so it's less blurry.
Well, no, I don't think it's that blurry now that you've got me full screen.
But for those two men to go through that amount of abuse to each other and just the tenacity of the whole thing, it was definitely, the match was put on in such a way where it sold the fact that both men absolutely wanted the win. Both men were going to do whatever it took to get that win, and neither man was going to give up. And to be able to put on that level of performance for 30 something minutes, taking, signature move after signature move and finisher after finisher and hold after hold. I have to agree with you. That is definitely one of the best WWE matches I've ever seen. And I'm with you. I commend John Cena. I think it's a little bit ironic in kind of a way where Vince McMahon comes out, no music, nothing. He's just there with Johnny Ace, tries to send Johnny Ace to ring the bell after.
The only reason I'm stopping you mid thought there is because Vince McMahon came down during Shawn and Brett in '97 as well. No music, no theatrics, accompanied by Patterson and Briscoe. Laurinaitis is the new Patterson and Briscoe. He's the new stooge here. It's a perfect callback to Montreal and intentionally done. So when Cena puts Punk in the STFU, or I think it might have just been called the STF at this point. More longtime fans will know it as the STFU. When Cena puts Punk in his submission finish, and Vince starts to go down there, realizes he won't make it down to ringside in time, so he sends Laurinaitis down for him. The exact quote in Montreal from Vince to Mark Eaton was, "Ring the fucking bell." When Vince, Shawn, and Hebner screwed Brett, he told Laurinaitis, you can see him give the signal to Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
Go to ringside and tell them to ring the bell. And then as you see Laurinaitis make his way down to ringside, you see Cena roll out.
All of a sudden, you see Cena roll out off the apron, and
Cena lets go of the STFU, rolls out under the ropes, meets Laurinaitis as he gets there, and just absolutely belts him with a lariat. Fun
And
fact.
then he looks at Cena, or he looks at McMahon. He's like, "Not this way."
And then, ironically enough, as Cena goes back into the ring, it's right in to go to sleep for the finish.
Yeah, and that's why I said there's a bit of irony there, where McMahon's
Hoyt,
trying to
Hoyt,
over
I
Punk,
believe the phrase would be hoisted by his own petard.
Yeah, I mean there's no better way to put it. Really, is Cena sticking to his morals stops McMahon from interfering, as McMahon is wont to do in high pressure situations like this one. And Cena ends up paying the price for it. And then in, typical McMahon fashion, McMahon puts all the blame for it on Cena the following night.
Yeah, we'll get to the fallout in a quick second. I just want to finish off the pay-per-view itself as a whole before we go to the fallout. Because the Red Alert will cover just the pay-per-view specifically, and then we can kind of talk about the fallout right afterwards. I don't use this phrase lightly when I say this.
Are we putting the Red Alert up?
Not yet.
Okay.
If you are a fan of professional wrestling or sports entertainment, call it whatever you want to, this match, John Cena versus CM Punk for Money in the Bank 2011, is must-watch viewing. Period. I can't put it any simpler than that.
I think I would even go so further to say, if the only thing you watch out of this pay-per-view are the final two matches, to me, you've watched the pay-per-view.
Well, the final two matches take up a quarter of the pay-per-view's runtime. 12 minutes and 16 seconds for Orton and Christian, 33:45 for Punk and Cena. That's 46 minutes and 1 second.
Yeah.
That's basically a fourth of the 2 hour and 40 minute runtime of the pay-per-view. Because 2 hours and 40 minutes is 180 minutes.
Right.
47 is basically almost a fourth of that. Because a fourth would be a little over a fourth, because a fourth would be 45.
Yeah, no, if you watch the top of the pay-per-view with the first pipe bomb promo package, and then just skip through to Christian Orton, then Cena Punk.
The two Money in the Bank matches are good train wrecks, and we'll go into the Red Alert right off of this here. The two Money in the Bank ladder matches are good train wreck matches. They're good spot fests. They're good, holy shit, look at what just happened kind of matches here.
Yeah.
If you want storytelling, if you want that male soap opera that wrestling can provide at times, he did the math.
I was going to say, we did the math. Yes, here too.
47, 94, 100. No, sir, that's over 25%.
That's what he said, 27.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Appreciate you.
I was going to say, please don't tell the math man that he's wrong.
Little over a quarter. Yeah, a little over a quarter of the show.
That's like statements that will start a fight. If you remember that old Who's Line segment.
Yeah, I slept with your mother. What about it? Is this another show where the points are made up and nothing really matters?
I don't know. These wrestling storylines might be made up, but the entertainment sure has a hell of a value.
And Drew Carey has gotten involved in pro wrestling before.
I'd give you the monkey if I had it.
Did you know that?
I know he had something to do with Raw at some point, right? Besides the fact that he
was a guest host.
He was a guest host.
He was a guest host for one of the episodes of Raw because they did The Price is Raw.
Yeah.
And then, Bob Barker did a Price is Raw.
Bob Barker was The Price is Raw. Yeah.
But Drew did an episode. Drew did an episode, a guest host one as well. Drew was also in a Royal Rumble match.
That I did know.
We'll have to get to that show at some point. I won't say when, just at some point.
Yeah. But I think we go into the red alert here.
We got to get a graphic for this. You know what I want? I want the Scott Steiner siren flash with the phrase "red
Hold
alert"
on.
blinking in front of it. If we can get that.
Hold on, I might have something. Give me well, keep talking, but I might have something.
My idea for future producing idea for this particular part of the show. The flashing ambulance siren with the words "red alert" blinking in front of it. And then into the red alert banner, the Chiron.
We're not that fancy, but we can do this.
That works for me. I approve. I'm here for it. All right, you can pull that now. That works going forward, actually. I'm okay with that.
We also have a blue one if you wanted a blue one.
The red one works better because it's the red alert.
Yeah.
Favorite match or moment from the show? Like I even need to ask.
How granular are we going here, though?
You can anything in particular you want to mention specifically, by all means.
I think without a doubt, you know what? I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to go with my favorite match and moment because I think I'm not doing it justice if I don't.
I think I know where you're going with this, and I'll let you go ahead.
My favorite match, obviously, CM Punk and Cena.
Of course.
Right, of course.
Goes without saying. It's the reason you watch this show.
My favorite moment, I think, is the promo leading into the match. Not the one at the top of the show, although that one was also good.
You mean the hype package?
The hype package, the second hype package, not the first one at the top of the show, but the second one right before the actual Punk match.
I believe the wrestling terminology for that would be a sizzle reel.
I mean, that's a Hollywood term. That's like a just general professional video term, not a necessarily a WWE term, but
that's what it was, though. It was basically.
Well, I would say that the one at the top of the show is more of a sizzle reel.
The one at the top. The one at the
top of the show is a sizzle reel. The one at the one right before the match is an actual hype package.
The one at the top of the show in wrestling terminology is considered a cold open.
Okay, so not the cold open, but the hype package right before.
There you go.
The match.
Yes.
Is my favorite moment by far. There are very few wrestling promos out there that send chills down my spine and give me goosebumps. But that was one of them.
I'm in bed right now. I'm underneath my blanket. You guys can't see it, but as we have this conversation, I am crisscross applesauce CM Punk style right now myself.
Like the way that they edited the pipe bomb and
Vince
with everything that he says leading up to it, and Cena, it was the perfect way to open that match.
If I am not mistaken, I might be, but if I am not mistaken, June 20th, 2011, Monday Night Raw, Las Vegas, Nevada.
It was 3 weeks before the pipe bomb. CM Punk's infamous pipe bomb was 3 weeks before Money in the Bank.
Okay, so that would be the 11th, the 4th, June 27th, 2011, Las Vegas, Nevada. I specifically remember it being in Las Vegas because it was Raw Roulette. And
yeah, they mentioned that on the Fallout the next night of, pipe bomb segment from 3 weeks ago.
It was Cena versus Truth in a tables match. That Truth won because Cena went through a table, and that Cena was laid out in the ring. That's when the pipe bomb was cut on the stage, crisscross applesauce, before they cut his microphone as the show goes off the air. Match or moment.
I'm gonna say this real quick though, because I have to give it an honorable mention. I want to go back and find my specific words that I say. So give me a second to scroll through through the Discord here because I'm back into the night after. Where the hell is it? This might actually be from the cold open then. Yeah, this was from the cold open. In the cold open, Vince has the line where he says, "This guy is the biggest referring to Punk. This guy is the biggest ingrate I've ever dealt with in my life." I know that CM Punk was, to spoiler alert, quote a Triple H, good for business. And we'll get into that in literally a minute. That did not feel like a sell whatsoever. Like, that entire promo felt like Vince was speaking his actual opinion on Punk.
Best for business.
Okay, don't whisper into the mic like this because you can't be heard.
The phrase you're looking for is best for business.
No. Trust me. There's a reason why I put it that way, and you'll see in a minute.
All right, so
when we get to the fallout.
For me, the red alert, match or moment. Come on, really?
Yeah.
It's Punk Cena. It's must see viewing for WWE fans. Least favorite match or moment. To me, this one's obvious as well.
Yeah, Divas.
Divas.
Like,
I appreciate the effort that they tried to put forth there, but there was a crowd that didn't care, two women who weren't ready for that stage, and as I said earlier in the broadcast, the best worker of the four wasn't even in the match, and that's Eve Torres.
I don't disagree at all with any of that.
Overall,
honorable mention for Dick moment of the show, Sin Cara overselling the seizure.
Yeah, that it was a bit much. A little heavy-handed on the sell. Overall show rating.
I'm going to give this a solid 90.
You mean a 9?
A 9. Sorry. We use so many different goddamn...
1 to 10 on this show, sir.
I'm going to give it a solid 9.
I am right there with you at a 9. It is, in my opinion, the second best pay-per-view ever. And the only thing that keeps it from going any higher is the Divas match and the fact that while Henry and Big Show had a good match, it was too short to mean anything in the long run, less than 6 minutes.
Like I said, I give them some legitimate bona fide credit for the submission hold there. And I'm trying, things with big guys that you normally see out of regular guys. Next time, maybe practice the sell a little bit more. If you're Big Show, practice the sell a little bit more. I don't think Henry really needed practice on the hold. I know he goes on to do that hold a couple more times throughout his push. That leg lock hold.
Apologies, sending an updated photo to somebody real quick there. I'm listening though.
Yeah, I got to. That was definitely, when it comes to, as you put it, the Haas division. That's got to be top 2 for me for all-time Haas matches, even though it's short. Just the fact that they wrote that as if it was a regular heavyweight match or even a cruiserweight match.
They actually have a singles match a little later in the year that is, in my opinion, just as good despite a ridiculous stipulation. TLC 2011, they have a chairs match. It's actually a pretty good match.
Why do I have a feeling they're tying that off of what happens at this pay-per-view with the chair injury?
It's also the Tables, Ladders, and Chairs pay-per-view, so it's part of the stipulated matches for that particular show.
I mean, yeah, that's what happens when you have TLC. So,
Who's your MVP for the show?
This is going to be a swerve. Like an actual swerve. Because I feel like it's almost too gimme to say CM or John Cena here. I'm going to give it to Scott Anderson.
Armstrong.
Or Armstrong, I mean. Wow, I called him Anderson, didn't I?
You did. It's
I'm
okay.
getting all my refs mixed up tonight.
Fun fact. Don't know if you know this. Scott Armstrong.
He does not look recognizable as a blonde, though.
So I don't know if I told you this in Discord. I'll tell you it now if you didn't know. More specifically, oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody. Road Dogg? His older brother.
I didn't know that.
Road Dogg's real name is Brian Gerard Armstrong.
Huh. Today I learned.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a point at the end of that where you could just see this like utter look of sheer fear in his face as McMahon is standing at the edge of the ramp at the ring, and Anderson's kind of just off to the left, or Armstrong is kind of just off to the left side there, kind of like half cowering behind the angled, barrier.
Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Hand up to his ear, clearly being told something, while, he's hoping that McMahon just doesn't like entirely go off on him.
Is that right before McMahon calls for Del Rio to come down and try to cash in?
That's in between the end of the match and Del Rio. Like, it's literally right when the bell rings. Anderson, Armstrong is like, I got to get the fuck out of this arena now. But he doesn't want to go past McMahon.
Right.
And
so like, I'm safe over here. This is a good place for me.
He's like, I'm just going to stay here until McMahon leaves or walks by me, and then I can bolt.
I'm gonna give it to Punk and Cena combined. I'm issuing co-MVPs. You mentioned the fact that it's the easy thing to do here, but Occam's razor. Sometimes the simplest solution is the correct one.
I wouldn't necessarily say easy, but more obvious. Which is still Occam's razor, though.
Yeah. Sometimes the most obvious solution is the correct one.
Yeah.
So, for me, I'm issuing co-MVPs to Cena and Punk. But no, Armstrong's performance as the referee in the main event definitely gets undersold by a lot of people. He adds a lot to the drama in that match, and Armstrong ends up playing a big part in the angle with Punk as it goes forward as well, too. Especially with McMahon's involvement towards Punk being the champion and his return to the company to set up the title unification match. Spoiler alert, let's hit the fallout.
So, the following night on Raw, July 18th, 2011.
From St. Louis, Missouri, I believe.
I believe that's correct. Yeah, I didn't write it. I should have wrote it down. I'm sorry.
Almost certain it's St. Louis.
Vince comes out and, as I quote, channeled his best Teddy Long, announcing the tournament quote-unquote card. Because that pretty much was the card for the evening. I think they threw in a Divas something or tried
Divas
to.
10 woman.
Yeah.
It only got like 3 minutes for 10 women.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Divas era, folks.
Exactly.
Do you want the honest?
We get to the end of that show, and I'm going to put it as I said in Discord, right? We get to near the end of the episode, the final segment. Vince comes out, right? Hit the music. Let me hit the music. No chance.
Here, I'll do the Vince.
And I I'm going to pause the music and hit a button.
Yes!
Thank you, Harry. Um,
I've been told it's scary how well I do that.
yeah, I mean it is, especially how scary it is that it syncs up to the actual Vince perfectly. So I'm like, I got 2-1 that Vince pulls his "you're fired" to Cena. I got 15-1 that the crowd pops out of control when he does it, and I got 50-1 that Punk shows up and interrupts them both. So then they pull out this Shawn Michaels reference, and then it's, oh shit, here we go. Now Cena's talking about the Montreal Screwjob. And I'm sitting here like, man, yeah, you know what? They really did lay into this as the modern era Montreal Screwjob.
Or at least the attempt at it, yes.
And then Cena drops a Hogan going off to TNA reference, which clearly bothers Vince, even though Vince is a master at, no selling what he needs to no sell. And then I'm going to do my best Motorhead here. It's time to play the game.
Tag me in.
Go. Wrong way.
There you go. Time to play the game. Time to play the game.
All right, you're definitely a lot better at that than I am. We get
It's all
one
about the game, and I can play it all about
one
it.
Mr. Hunter Hearst Helmsley coming out to the ring. Yes, I do actually know what Triple H stands for.
It's time for me to speak. Continue.
And all I'm gonna say is holy shit, the swerve. So, not to overuse a clip, but I like the clip. Triple H effectively comes out and tells McMahon,
Yes!
You can probably pull the red alert graphic, by the way.
I guess we could.
We're going to have to set up like a Fallout graphic.
I'll have Eric work on that. We put the mushroom cloud emoji.
Ooh, I like it. Maybe do like a GIF where it explodes and it says the Fallout.
I don't know if we could do GIFs in the little banner things, but we'll work on something.
I'll talk to Watkins. We'll make it happen.
I mean, technical limitations of StreamYard, but
we'll make a little clip. We'll have the GIF
because
we'll
the light that this here is literally just a GIF on an overlay.
No, and that's what I'm saying. We have a mushroom cloud overlay, and it goes off, and then the little Chiron pops up. The Fallout.
Oh, I get what you're saying now. All right, hey viewer, if you're watching, put that into the thing for me.
Continue. Again, new show, folks. We're spitballing ideas going forward here. Welcome to a visual medium podcast. Twitter.com/notanetworkpods, twitch.tv/@notanetworkpods, twitch.tv/notanetworkpods, twitter.com/notanetworkpods, youtube.com/@notanetworkpods.
I was going to say, it's really hard to fuck up now, Harry.
I accidentally put the @ in front of the Twitter one because I was thinking.
I mean, technically, you have to put it. You have to put an @ at Twitter, so you're not
YouTube.
entirely wrong.
YouTube has the @
Oh, YouTube, the @ is required.
Vince,
yeah,
Triple H basically tells Vince that the board.
It says that the board has relieved him of duty. And he says, quote, "I'm sorry, but it's good for business."
I believe the exact way that he phrased it was a vote of no confidence.
Actually, the exact way they phrased it was an injunction for a vote of no confidence.
Ironically enough, how they ousted Vince in real life as well before he came back.
Not
this one, later.
Yeah, funny how,
Life
storylines.
imitates art sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's exactly the phrase I was looking for.
What's the old axiom? Man makes plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, they so Triple H comes out, pretty much says the board has put me in charge of day-to-day operations. You've been relieved of your duties, and they fade to black with Vince literally crying in the ring. Now, I don't know if that's cell crying or actual tears, but either way,
It was a sell, but it was intended to hit the heartstrings.
oh, it did. I mean, when your fade to black is an audience chanting "Thank you, Vince," I think it got the intended effect.
To be fair, this particular "Thank You, Vince" chant was before we realized what a douchebag of a person that Vince McMahon is. A little hard to look back on these shows favorably, knowing now what we know.
Especially knowing the fact that it was probably occurring around this time.
I mean, if not a little bit before, but definitely during. Because I can tell you for certainty that at least 2 of the women involved in the scandal are in the company at this point. One of them may or may not be the Divas champion. Yeah, it wasn't subtle at all, was it?
No, it really wasn't. If
Exactly.
I had the doggo here, I would have hit it, but I don't feel like switching back over to BWSR for it.
You guys are welcome for dramatic doggo, by the way.
So the week after, on the subsequent Raw, because I ended up watching that one because I couldn't sleep, and
this would
I
be
got too sucked in.
This would be 7/25/11. I cannot give you a city off the top of my head. I don't know.
The very long and short is they allow the title match, the WWE Championship match, to proceed as originally done by Vince, claiming it as his last act before suspension.
And if I may explain here, there's actually a reason it opens the show.
Go ahead.
Did you know most heavyweight title matches are a 60-minute time limit? It opened the show because remember, Raw is only 2 hours at this point. It opened the show in the event of a Broadway going the full 60.
So it opens up and Rey Mysterio wins it,
defeating The Miz in the final of the tournament. Spoiler
Yes.
alert.
I mean, you're watching a show, Dave. Spoiler alert. Shouldn't be too much of a surprise at this point. Rest of the program continues, and Triple H comes out shortly thereafter, about middle of the program. Says,
I think it's like in real time, it would have been right at the top of the 9 o'clock hour.
yeah, and says, hey, guess what? I've talked to the 2 guys, and my first official act is the guy who has a rematch clause is getting his rematch tonight. It's going to be John Cena versus Rey Mysterio next. They have their match. Cena wins the belt back. This is, I believe, number 11 for Cena now.
Hold on. May I take over from here?
Sure. I'm gonna mention one thing that happens on this episode, if you don't. But go ahead.
I'm gonna take over from here after Cena wins the title and Cena is celebrating the title win. Silence. Cena's music stops.
Yeah, not there yet. Give me a minute. I'm not there yet. Because in the middle of the episode, I believe it was before the Cena match, Triple H puts Michael Cole into the ring. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't.
Triple H brings back JR. He says, I've re-signed JR. This was after he did a segment where he re-signed Morrison against R-Truth. He announces he's re-signed John Morrison, and has him feuding and brings back the John Morrison R-Truth feud.
This might have been on the way to Jomo Miz again, if I'm not mistaken. Continue.
And then a little bit later on after that, he comes out to say that he signed another person because, you know, they're milking this whole I'm re-signing people bit to tease out CM Punk and the fact that Triple H has re-signed Punk.
Hold, please. I'm pulling up the runtime of this episode on the network.
Go ahead. So Triple H announces JR's return, and Michael Cole grabs the mic, takes slams his headset off after refusing to shake JR's hand, grabs a mic, stands up on the announce table, and just lays into Triple H. I've done everything for this company. I've bent over backwards. I've kissed a man's boot. So on and so forth. Triple H says, that's fine. You don't want to work with him. You're relieved from commentary. And then he's like, well, and then, you know, he's like, if you don't like it, I'm going to give you 5 days. If you come back on SmackDown, then you keep your job. If not, you don't get your benefits because I can't fire you. You're going to cost the company too much if I do. And that would not be good for business. As Triple H is leaning heavily into this good for business gimmick.
It might have been good for business back then. It became best for business.
It became best for business later on. Yeah, this is the precursor to best for business.
Because the best for business was the Daniel Bryan era in 2013/14. Hour and 33-minute runtime for this episode of Raw. So, yeah, Raw was still 2 hours at this point.
Michael Cole comes out after a commercial break because Michael Cole says, well, I don't have any gear to wrestle. All my gear's at the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Michael Cole comes out to Triple H's music, dressed in Triple H's
I remember
gear,
this now.
and does Triple H's signature water bottle mist thing. I don't know what the hell you want to call that, but
it's basically the fountain spit.
Yeah. And they put him up against, if you've heard me mention this name before for a reason, there was a reason. They put him up against Zack Ryder.
Which tells me that episode of Monday Night Raw was probably in Long Island, New York.
No, it wasn't in Long Island, I don't think.
All right, you continue. I will look that up, and I will have that answer for you.
I was going to say, go look it up, because I told you what I mean, it's in the Discord. It's season 19, episode 29.
That's not on the network.
Season 19, episode 30.
I'm checking
Peacock.
Cage. I'm checking Cage Match because the location of the show is not on Peacock.
It would be at the top. It was at the top of the show. If you actually watch the show, like just click play, it's there in the top minute.
So that's 620. Really? No, 627. Continue. I'm looking.
Ryder comes out. I want to say it was a backbreaker suplex.
The finish was probably the Rough Rider, which is the leaping leg drop to the throat.
He didn't even do his finisher. The match literally lasted 3 minutes. Ryder comes out, pulls one move. Cole looks like Cena and Punk did 2 weeks prior after each finisher, where he's got that deer in the headlights. I don't even know where the hell I am look. Ryder puts him over with a clean and easy pin, and then they go into the whole Cena bit, and then afterwards, Punk returns.
Hampton, Virginia.
Yeah. We were both wrong. Well, I never really said where it was. I just was agreeing with you. So,
Per cagematch.net.
but yeah, no, at the very end of this episode, you want me to put you full screen for a second?
Yeah, that's a little blurry. There you go. Hampton, Virginia, 7/25/11.
But
There you
yeah,
go.
at the very end of this episode, CM Punk returns, is announced to have been re-signed, and Triple H declares that they're co-champions in Cena and Punk. I haven't watched anything further from here, but
You're missing the most important part of this.
I probably am, because it was 7 a.m. when I watched it. I was pretty tired. Oh, yeah. I did say CM Punk returns.
For the first time using Cult of Personality by Living Color.
See, I heard Cult of Personality hit, and I'm like, oh shit, it's CM Punk. But I guess this was the first time.
Remember, if you watch Money in the Bank, he comes out to This Fire Burns by Killswitch Engage.
That's right.
This is the first time that Punk uses Cult of Personality, and it is very important for independent wrestling fans. CM Punk, when he was in Ring of Honor, used Miseria Canteri by AFI, which literally translates to a distressed voice. CM Punk turned heel right after he won the Ring of Honor World Champion. I am the devil himself, and you people fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. CM Punk signs his WWE contract on the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title. And the very next show, when he comes out to do that, he comes out to Cult of Personality by Living Color.
I didn't know that.
2006 for the ROH edition, 2005 for the ROH edition, 2011 for the WWE edition, almost 6 years to the day that the Pipe Bomb promo and the ROH title reign, both of them start in June of their respective calendar years.
Jesus. Yeah, I know. This is why you're the Wrestling Encyclopedia.
WatchROH.com. $9.99 a month. You can actually go back and watch Death Before Dishonor 2005, the show where Punk wins the heavyweight title from Austin Aries.
But yeah, no, I see Punk come out, and that's a whole.
Yeah, I didn't know if you would put that together there. That's why I wanted to specifically.
Yeah,
inject.
no, I hadn't put that together because I had always known Punk for Cult of Personality.
It is the WWE debut of him using that song with his return, which is why it was quiet in the arena when the song hit. And then as soon as you see the graphic flash CM Punk, that's when the fans lose their mind.
Yeah, because at first, I remember the music hits and it's just the generic Raw banner on the Titantron.
And then it changes over to the CM Punk logo.
Yeah, and Cena's looking around like, who the fuck is coming out? Because clearly he doesn't recognize the music. So, that should have gave me the hint that this was the first time he was using that music.
And just adding a little bit of extra sauce to your pasta.
Oh, yeah, no, you're fine. I appreciate it. That popped me too, man.
Thus bringing us to the conclusion of our coverage of Money in the Bank 2011 here on Spoiler Alert, a presentation of the Not a Network Podcast Network. Brian, what are we covering next week? It's about time you tell me so that way I know.
I'm not going to tell you why. I'm going to see if you can figure it out. And maybe you know right off the top of your head. Maybe you don't. King of the Ring 1996.
You talk about your Psalms. You talk about your John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass. The birth of a catchphrase.
The birth of a catchphrase.
Of course I'm going to know that one. I even gave you the impression for it.
Well done, sir. Well done.
We go back to June of 19. What is it with June in this? Oh, well, you know what happened? We did 2 shows in January. Now we're taking our asses to June. And then guess what? In 2 weeks, it'll be 2 shows in March. The death of WCW and the simulcast seen around the world. Spoiler alert goes back to March 26th, 2001, as we cover both Raw and WCW Nitro in what is the final WCW broadcast ever. That'll be in 2 weeks here. Spoiler alert. He is the wrestling enthusiast, Bryan Espinoza. I am the voice of reason, allegedly. I am also the Wrestling Encyclopedia. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Twitter.com/NotANetworkPods. Twitch.tv/NotANetworkPods. YouTube.com/@NotANetworkPods. He is at the Andesian.
Yeah, we'll get
One
that
of these,
right eventually.
one of these days.
Remember. So with this show, I'm always going to be on the left. You're always going to be on the right.
So I'm always going to be pointing with my left hand. Got it.
Because of the way StreamYard works.
He is at the Andesian. The hate mail can come to @HEB the Eagle or HEBTheEagle@yahoo.com. And this has been waiting for the scroll before I do it. There you go. This has been
so fast.
I know. This has been Spoiler Alert, a presentation of the Not a Network Podcast Network. We'll talk to you next week. Look in my eyes. What do